When we arrived at the airport in Paris, we took a taxi to the hotel where we were staying, and it's a place where Florian and Ansel have stayed many times before. So Florian is going to speak about that, and then also later in our account about the stay in Paris, she will return to speak about two exceptional dinners we had at one of the restaurants that was about 200 feet away from the hotel where we stayed.
Rue Claire is a traffic-free market street in the 7th arrondissement on the left bank of the Seine. It is filled with shops, cafes, bakeries, restaurants, seafood and produce markets, and has 2 boutique hotels. The first time we stayed in Rue Claire was in 2016 when we came to celebrate Father Piderit'S 45th anniversary. The 7th arrondissement is home to some of the major attractions in Paris, such as the Eiffel Tower, Musée d'Orsay, Napoleon's resting place Les Invalides, and École Militaire. But this is not the reason for staying in this area. The 7th arrondissement is also where the Chapel of the Miraculous Medal, the Chapel of St. Vincent de Paul, the Cathedral of St. Clothilde, and the Church of St. Francis Xavier are located. And since Father Piderit prefers to walk instead of taking the metro, I had to find a hotel where walking to these places would not be too hard on my feet, legs, and hips.
So very close to us, in a place where I tried to arrange for a mass, but they couldn't accommodate it because it was the month of August and they didn't have a sacristan there, is the Cathedral of Saint Clothilde, who was a Parisian saint. It's a beautiful cathedral in the Gothic style, and the whole group went there at one point and visited it. It's maybe about 7 or 8 blocks away from where we were staying. And I hope at some point, if we return to Paris, to be able to celebrate Mass in that wonderful cathedral. Another place that we went to, we've been to before, and it's just known by the title Rue de Bac, and it's the Church of the Miraculous Medal. Beautiful church, many masses celebrated there every day, and we had a mass for our group. In the back of the church is the body of Saint Louise de Marillac. Saint Louise de Marillac was the one who founded, along with Saint Vincent de Paul, the Daughters of St. Paul. St. Vincent de Paul founded the Vincentians, which is a priest order of men, but then together they founded the Order of the Daughters of Charity. And not to be confused with the Sisters of Charity, Elizabeth Ann Seton, but the Daughters of Charity, similar motivation went from St. Vincent de Paul. They run a whole system of wonderful hospitals in the United States. So we had Mass there, then met afterwards with the Filipino sacristan, a lovely sister, religious sister. Then we walked down the street, went around the corner, walked about maybe 200 feet, and went to the Church of St. Vincent de Paul. In that church, high above the altar, in the picture, it's hard to see, but there is a coffin up there with Saint Vincent de Paul in it. And it may seem very distant, but you can get very close to it because you just walk up to the front beside the altar and then behind the altar, and there's a staircase that goes up, and you can walk across, pay your respects to Saint Vincent de Paul, and then go down the other side, down the stairs, and out again. On our second day in Paris, we had Mass at St. Francis Xavier Church, which was close to the hotel and also close to the Eiffel Tower. The name suggests that it is a Jesuit church, but in fact it is not. The reason it's named Francis Xavier is right across the street from it is the office for the French Foreign Missions, and St. Francis Xavier is the patron of all missionary activity. And so it was a beautiful church to visit. We had Mass in Our Lady's Chapel, which is the area behind the main altar. a rather large area and a beautiful mass we had there. Then afterwards we came around front, we did some pictures, and then people spread out, looked around the church, and I was surprised to find an altar, and then in front the body of Saint Madeleine Sophie Barrat. It looks like Barrett, but they pronounce it Barrat in France. And she is the foundress of the Religious of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. They have many convent schools in the United States, and it's also a name that my mother frequently invoked because she went to a Sacred Heart college in New York, and she mentioned St. Madeleine Sophie Barrat. So I, in particular, was happy to see that and pray at her grave there. So we did go to Notre Dame, but of course they don't let you in Notre Dame. But most of the outside has been nicely refurbished, much like it was before. We then crossed over from the Ile de Cité, which is where Notre Dame is, right across the way, and that's the Hotel de Ville behind us. Beautiful structure. It used to be the mayor's office and place where he lived, and now it is something for the coming Olympics. From there, we went on and visited one or two other churches, and then walked all the way back to where we're staying. And where we're staying is where also Florian will pick up our commentary.
Our group of 5 is once again a group of 15 in Paris. The 6 Uy sisters and their cousin Cherry have rejoined us from their 2-week shopping spree in Spain. Freddie, Mary Lou's husband, arrived from California. Cynthia, who was with us at Father Piderit'S 45th anniversary, flew in from Madrid, and we were also joined by Luz, who lives in Paris. 2 shops down from our hotel is La Sablaise, which offers a wide range of fresh seafood brought in daily from ports all over France. In the past, I would buy a kilo of cooked shrimp and eat them in my hotel room, as everything they sold was for takeaway. I was tempted to buy the fresh oysters, but the thought of having to shock them on my own was a bit too much for me to deal with. This year, La Sablaise opened a small informal dining section which flowed to the sidewalk. It was perfect for our group since it could only accommodate a maximum of 18 people, so we had the whole restaurant to ourselves. From their small menu, you could order fresh oysters, clams, cooked shrimps, crabs, and fish. They also had a limited selection of wines and champagne. What they don't offer, such as cheese, chips, nuts, hot sauce, they allow you to get them from the stores in the area. The men who were selling the seafood were the same men serving at the restaurant. La Sablaise has the reputation for being one of the finest fresh fish markets in all of Paris, and if you have seen how much we ate, you'll know they weren't kidding. The food was so good, we went back the next day.